Have you ever believed something for your entire life and then you become an adult and you find out that it's simply not true? A lot of people might have these thoughts about things related to politics, theology, world, and culture. But for me, it was thinking that Jump5 wrote the song God Bless the USA. Apparently, it's a cover. Hi, by the way, I'm Jamie Grace. I make music here in my studio, and this is where I like to unpack Christian music, gospel music from the 90s or early 2000s, because it's some of the greatest music that has ever existed, and it largely shaped the person that I am today, the artist and producer that I am today. Today we're going to be talking about Jump5, but we're not going to be talking about politics, theology, Christian culture, present day, departures, scandals, or record labels. And you might ask yourself, Jamie Grace, then how are you going to talk about music? Music. We're gonna talk about the music, baby. You know the very common comment on like TikTok and stuff that they could never make me hate you. I don't know, that could be from a movie or something like that. I just know it as a TikTok comment. You could never make me dislike this stuff. I'm sorry, spinning around. I got that funny feeling. Let me not get ahead of myself, or actually let me get ahead of myself and just talk again about the third time they released that debut album. This time with that bonus track, God Bless USA, and they changed the words. It was, if it's my music, I work for all my life, and I had to start again with my family by my side. I think the original lyric says with my children and my wife. And Jump5, they said, I'm sorry, we're in 5th grade. It's with my family by my side. I promise y'all, I thought they wrote that song. And I was like, they are the most inspiring children I've ever heard. They are changing this world with this melody. I found out they didn't write it about 7 years ago. That number 7 is honestly a major guess, but it was well into my adulthood. I'm 32 years old, and it was well into my adulthood that I heard someone else singing it, and I was like, with your children and your wife. Stop changing Jump5's song to apply to adult people. Jump5 was an American Christian teen pop group active from 1997 until 2007. They carried me almost to my senior year of high school. We almost made it. The group was made up of 5 members from Nashville, Brandon and Brittany. Oh my, siblings. There were siblings in the group. I remember thinking to myself, Morgan, if you would act right and learn how to dance, I couldn't dance either. We could be basically like Jump5. We just have to find some other people. No, we can't dance. Chris, Leslie Moore, and Libby Hodges. Now, Chris, he could do backflips. Can you? Probably not. They actually all might be able to do backflips, but that's just like something that I very much remember from my childhood. It's just like, I'm sorry, we have an athlete in our midst. So after Libby Hodges left the group in 2004, a girl named Natasha joined the group temporarily, but they eventually sit on with the 4 members. And then in 2007, the group disbanded or separated. And there's tons of videos online. Some of them have YouTube channels, and they did like a mini documentary in some recent years. If you want to go see like what they're up to now, I watched that stuff when it came out, but I didn't want to go back and rewatch it because I don't want there to be any bias as I do my deep dive on their discography today. I wanted it to be authentically, what am I saying? Truthfully, one of the videos is like an hour long, and I'm like, no, I'm a literal homeschool teacher. I do not have the time. I love you guys. I don't have the time for that. So they released their debut album in 2001. Sorry. It was really good. And of course, the main single that we all remember is Spinning Around. Now, something that I thought was really cool and started a lot of conversations in our home, Jump5 very much crossed over. They did a lot of Radio Disney, and they also did a lot of churches. And again, we're not here to talk about Christian culture in the context of like, was that controversial? Was it not? Y'all think I'm about to unpack that? Y'all think I want to be in the comments talking? No, I don't want to be talking to y'all about that at all. I'm here to say that I enjoyed it. I thought it was mad cool, especially seeing the humans that they are today. I'm like, look at being a delight and a light. Amen, hallelujah. But legit, look at how you're able to be a light in the world, and present something in like those spaces, but also something that's like safe for the family that we can vibe to as well. So I thought that was super cool. Spinning Around, huge single. And then Wish That I Could Read Your Mind, All I Want, The Meaning of Life, Change a Heart, Change the World, Virtual Reality. I'm reading these like way out of order and stuff. You could totally, see all of that. And also, I haven't listened to this record in a while, but I was listening to the song Tell Me Why, and I could not stop thinking that it sounded so much like Vienna, like the style of Vienna. The voice is not as much, but just like the production and the writing style. And I don't know if you guys remember Vienna. I think I might do like an episode or video at some point about like all the bands and the groups that like they maybe only have 1 or 2 albums that we just all still really like. Maybe some of the forgotten ones that should have never been forgotten. But Vienna's writers, it was oftentimes this guy named Mark, I don't know how to say his last name, and Zark Porter. And he wrote the song. They wrote the song "Tell Me Why." So that would make a lot of sense. A lot of like the Europop style was really in. I think this was around the time of A-Teens or A-Town or O-Town. Are all 3 of those groups? Tell me you grew up in church with that. This was also the time of Dream Street, right? This was the season of happy hype pop, and it made so much sense for there to be a version of this type of music that churches kept bringing out for like youth groups and stuff like that. So made a lot of sense. So then they released their second record, All the Time in the World, in 2002, yeah. And that record is really good as well. There's a song called All I Can Do. And I want to be clear, guys. I was like a Jump 5. I really like Jump 5, but I was also such like a Jump 5 number ones. They knew how to get me. Like, when you're at, when you're at the store and there's anything with good marketing, and that you'll walk by it. People are like, oh, I'll walk by that and I'll go to what I need, right? I'm the one that's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's the best mascara ever. I need to see it. Now, if I get it and I try it and it's not, I will honestly be sad and devastated for a while, but I will genuinely purchase it because it says it's the best. And I'm like, I gotta try, right? So I was very much like Jump 5 says All I Can Do is the new single. I was like their target demographic when it came to marketing. Like, you say it's the best. This must be the best song on the record. And I loved it so much. And this record was produced by Mark Hammond. He also produced the first record. And there's a lot of different songwriters on the second record, like most records have. But a couple that I wanted to mention, one is Chris O'Mardian, which is wild, not to like put everybody's personal business out there, but his wife Paige and we did a TV show called I Shine back in the day. But again, I try to only talk about people's careers up until like 2008 to 10. 10's too late. Because then we get into Jamie Grace entering the scene. No, that's not what we're talking about today. But they also, Michelle Toombs. I have not heard the name Michelle Toombs in a very long time. So sorry if it's Toomey and I'm saying her name wrong. But Michelle Toombs, do you guys remember her? She had some singles back in the day. Now I got to go back and look at her stuff. But I think that's really cool. She wrote the song Summer Song. That record was such a hit All the Time in the World that they did a Christmas album called All the Joy in the World. So smart. Then they had Accelerate. That came out in 2003. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there's some music videos out there where they're in the boxes doing all that stuff that you do in 2002 and 3, doing flips and all that kind of thing. I was so impressed by that. And it was so interesting for me being so impressed by that as a young, impressionable kid, yeah, but also as an artist, because I didn't really see myself in Jump 5. Now, let's be clear. This is actually not a video about race and CCM, and maybe that's a conversation that we'll have on another day. But when I mean that I didn't see myself is that I was not like super athletic. My voice was not a soprano. It was not high. I wasn't really able to hit the notes that the girls were able to hit. I couldn't do flips like they could. I think Brittany did a lot of like cartwheels and flips and stuff too. I wasn't of small frame. So I didn't see myself in them at all, right? Like I was not the target demographic in that context. But to be honest with you guys, I think that is what speaks a lot to the authenticity of them as humans. I think that they were able to, and I'm saying this not having like a personal connection with any of the people in the group, just honestly out of positive things I've heard about them as humans. Vulnerability and transparency is able to connect with people even when it shouldn't be able to connect with them. You can be the absolute target demographic, like me, the listening ear of a young person, a preacher's kid, yada, yada, but then at the same time be so different from the person that is creating that content, and you still relate and you still connect. And for whatever reason, because I'm sitting here like, how was I inspired by Jump 5? Because I don't jump and there's only one of me, but it it just worked. A lot of people would say like, that's good marketing and stuff. Yeah, it is a really good branding and team and all that. And also authenticity. It's all of it. It takes all of it. So Michelle made her return on the third record, Accelerate. And then we also, wait, wait. This is ridiculous. How did I not know? After 14,000 years, how did I not know that my favorite Jump 5 song, Why Do I Do, was written by Zoe Girl? If you know anything about me, you know that the reason why I didn't start this off by talking about Zoe Girl is because I'm liable to do that as a 15-part series. Oh my gosh. And no one was going to tell me. Just no one was. I can't. Also by Lynn Nichols and a guy named Ted, which is super cool. I did not know that. They also did a cover of Walking on Sunshine. Yes, I thought they wrote that as well. Kevin Syka and a couple other people wrote Wonderful. I worked with Kevin Syka on I Shine, and I knew that he worked with them, which is always really fun. And yeah, they did a cover of We Are Family, which I knew was a cover. I do want that to go down. I did know that was a cover. They kind of entered into like a little bit of a pop rock version of Jump 5, if you will. They kind of altered their sound by the time it was like 2003. Those first two records were really a lot of that, like, I don't know, like the Spice Girls vibe, like the really poppy bubblegum pop kind of vibes. But yeah, it really shifted. And I think that was really cool. My favorite song is on that third record. And I think it was a little bit of them maybe growing up and maturing. And not that pop music makes you young, but if you do start with one genre, you do try to find ways that, okay, how can I now make adjustments in the music that I'm making that reflects the maturity of what I'm singing about, what I'm writing about, what I'm going through. And I also noticed, I don't know if this is exact, like I'm not fact checking here, but as far as, I don't know when any of the group members started writing on the records, but if I'm not mistaken, it was on this third record. Brandon wrote on Because of You, or All Because of You, which I think is really cool. Not everybody writes songs, not every songwriter sings songs. There's all people do different things. Yeah. But there is a really cool thing that I think happens in a lot of times groups like this that might have been started by a manager or a label, when the members of the group kind of get to have those moments to try something new. Like I said, to grow up and kind of expand their artistry as well. I experienced some of that as I grew as a writer and producer. There are certain things in my career that I've gotten to do that I didn't do from the beginning. Yeah. And so I think that's really cool to see his name credited on that third record. Like I said, though, I don't know if any of them could have written on the first two. That would take a little bit more time and research. And so I'm just clarifying to you guys that that's not something I'm about to do. On their next record, Dreaming in Color, it was released in 2004. You see Britney's name show up, and she was what Feels Like Falling is she was one of the writers on that song. Then you also see the return of Michelle Toombs, Crystal Martin, and a lot of the same writers and producers, which is really cool because it seems like they've worked with a lot of the same people for a long time. And I don't know, I just really hope that they loved it, because I know as listeners we really enjoyed it, and we enjoyed the consistency, even as their style and everything kind of evolved over the years. And so on the other end, it always makes me just like really hope that they, as creators and as artists, that they really enjoyed that as well. Wait. Stop. I will say I'm not crazy familiar with this record, and now I'm seeing that it was produced by Max from Super Chick. Sir, this is just ridiculous. This record came out in late 2004, and I was deeply, deeply committed to my plus one Zoe Girl era, and also Out of Eden, and kind of leaning into my country music era as well, while I was kind of navigating what is my own personal style. So I wasn't as familiar with this record, but now I'm like, how did I miss that? Now, they wouldn't release another full-length record until 2007, and that was 2004. But they did quite a bit of stuff with Disney in this era as well. And I've mentioned in the last video, I don't have cable, and so I do think that this was kind of leaning a little bit more into maybe their Radio Disney era. I'm not positive, but back to specifically songs and the music. So 2005 is when they released music, and 6, they released music that was adjacent, connected to like Lilo and Stitch and stuff like that. Like, Hawaiian roller coaster ride, I think. And it's crazy because, so I grew up on like sometimes, hearing some mainstream stuff when it was in movies, but like mostly just Christian music or Southern gospel or gospel. And then my husband grew up like not really knowing CCM at all, right? And so it's wild because at some point when we were like dating and we were just taking like a long drive and going back and forth sharing songs, like, you don't know this song, you don't know this song. He played something by Jump5. It was Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride, I think it's called. And he played it and he was like, this was like the jam when you were growing up. You don't know who Jump5 is. And so I pulled out my phone and I was like, I'm sorry, have you never heard Spinning Around? And he's like, Jump5 has albums? Jump5 has more music? And I was like, what? How does one go their whole life knowing like only 2 songs of a band that has 5, 6, 7 albums? It was just so wild. And I think it's part of the incredible impact that a band is able to make when they're able to make that kind of crossover, but also just part of the wildness that there really are people out there that'll just like hear a couple songs from an artist and they'll be like, oh, I like those, and not have to start a YouTube channel and make videos about it. What? So we're kind of getting into like where I am trying to not elaborate too much, because in 2007, they released a record called Hello and Goodbye. And they have a song on this record called Fly, written by Aaron Rice, Jamie Moore, and Carrie Barlow. Now, I've gotten it right with all 3 of those dudes. I don't see them watching this video, but hey, how's it going? Long time no talk, if for whatever reason they're watching this. But there's a song here called Fly. And I remember there was a song that was pitched to me that I think Jamie and Carrie wrote, or maybe just Jamie, about flying. And I wonder if they were like written at the same time or in the same era. I ended up not doing that song. But again, that's why I'm kind of like, I don't want to like, you know what I mean? Like talk too much about this time, because, I'm not making a lot of sense externally, but in my brain, I'm making a ton of sense. But those 3 guys make an appearance quite a bit on this record. At this point, everyone in the band is contributing as a writer at some point, which I think in some way, which I think is really cool. And there was a song featuring Libby Hodges. At this point, she had left the group, but she came back as a feature. I also never necessarily said like Chris's last name or the brother and sister, like Brady and Brandon's last name. And that's because, again, these are people where my whole life I was like, I know how to say their name. It's Chris Fedon. And if anybody would tell me I was wrong, I'd be like, listen, you don't know this music like I do. There was another group that was out around this time that gave a lot of the same energy, even though they were quite different stylistically, and that's Everlife. It's 3 sisters in that group, and then in Jump5, you have a brother and sister. Again, like I said, very different, but similar energy, because a lot of us on the listening end were like, oh my gosh, another sibling group, what. This was also around the time that Super Chick showed up on the scene. Trisha and Melissa, they are sisters in the group, and then you also had Barlow Girl that showed up just a little bit after as well. And so the point that I'm making is that yes, there are, of course, times where there are auditions being held because labels or managers are looking for a specific thing. I recently held auditions for the New Kids Choir, and now we practice here in my studio every Saturday, and we have an awesome time. But there are also times where sibling groups or families, friends do create a group together, right? For the most part, I'd say it's a conglomerative effort of all of the above. And this was kind of that era when I think a lot of us, the internet was showing up. We were Googling things and learning more about people and, watching these little like mini documentaries on YouTube and stuff like that. I remember Everlife had an EPK on their website. This was that season. This was that time. This was the height of who are these people? Why am I influenced? How am I influenced? Can I be like them? And if I can't, can I at least be front row to see what they do? I would love to know down in the comments if you have a favorite Jump5 song or a favorite Jump5 memory. And I think it'd be fun to know too. Did you hear about them through the CCM side of things? Or did you hear about them through the Radio Disney side of things? Thank you so much for watching this video, by the way. If you are here, which you are because you're here, make sure you subscribe. Click on the screen if you want to check out some of the music that I have made over the last 17,000 years. Have a holly jolly Christmas. Okay, bye.